our tail of the tape for this, our first fight, live on Paramount Network. 35-year-old Salter against 35-year-old Andrew Kapel, who has a slight reach advantage. To get things officially underway, here's the voice, Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Bellator MMA live on Paramount Network from Mohegan Sun Arena. The action begins now with 3 5-minute rounds in the middleweight division. Brought to you by Boost Mobile's all-new Shrink It Plan, a brand new way to mobile. And now, first, introducing the blue corner. At 6'3", weighing in 185.1 pounds, his professional record, 15 wins, 6 losses. By way of Minneapolis, Minnesota, he fights out of Denver, Colorado, Andrew Kapel.
Yes, sir.
And across the cage, his adversary, fighting out of the red corner. At 6'1", weighing in 186 pounds even. As a professional, 17 victories, 4 defeats. From Gardendale, Alabama, he fights out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Introducing John Salter. And when the bell rings, the referee in charge, Dan Mergliata.
Dan Mergliata, our referee. Kapel and Salter both last fought on the same card back in November. Both victorious, as we showed you a moment ago. Here we go! Tonight's fight clock is brought to you by Geico. The southpaw John Salter in the red gloves, Andrew Kapel in the blue gloves. 5-fight win streak, including the knockout of King Mo in his Bellator debut.
John Salter has a very good amateur wrestling background, but it's his jiu-jitsu and the way that he implements his jiu-jitsu that makes him such a dangerous MMA fighter. You got to figure his only loss in the Bellator cage out of 8 fights is to Rafael Lovato Jr., who became the champion, who is a world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, and he went into the 3rd round with him and got caught. But this guy, when he's on top, look out.
And that was his first loss, John, in over 6 years, and it took almost to the end of the fight. 4:27 of the 3rd. Salter has finished 16 of his 17 professional victories.
He was winning that fight also, too, in the first 2 rounds. He had won those first 2 rounds. Going in the 3rd round, he made a mistake, cost him the fight, and that's how quick it was with Lovato Jr.
That's what happens with submission. That's what submission's about. You can't make the mistake when someone's that good.
And a shout out to the former champion, Rafael Lovato Jr. had to retire due to some health concerns. And John Salter even talked about the huge respect, as we all have, the huge respect and regard for Rafael Lovato Jr.
Very impressed that Andrew Kapel, very calm, very relaxed, gets himself out of position. In the stand-up, look for him to try to just land straight, hard shots.
Andrew Kapel has never been knocked out. Salter, we showed you the highlights of the Van Steenis fight, going to the judges' scorecards for the first time in his 21st professional fight. Good takedown defense.
See Salter trying to gather the legs together, trying to pinch those knees together. Every time you have the legs together, you can rock them left to right, making sure that they can't use them like we saw earlier with Adam Piccolotti with the hook sweep.
Push his head away, push his head away.
Salter's just so methodical on the ground. He never makes real big movements, takes his time, a lot of pressure. It's a heavy pressure that if you've never had someone on top of you that can create that pressure, it's hard to describe.
Reminds me a little bit of his grappling game of like a Jake Shields. It's just nothing that's too flashy, but things that work. He just continuously does the same thing over and over and has success with it.
And all this work that Andrew Kapel is doing, he's carrying the weight. He's getting hit with just little shots to try to make him move, and he's having to stop. When John tries to change position or tries to put pressure on, he's got to either move his body position. All this is taxing on him.
See that shoulder pressure there, Salter putting his left shoulder into the chin. Now he switched over to try to attack the Kimura. He doesn't get it, you could look to see him go back to the shoulder pressure across the chin. Nice
Trap
job.
and roll to the left. Go, trap and roll to the left. Yep. Hand fight a little here. Hand fight a little. Right hand.
Full mount for John Salter, 90 seconds on the clock.
Kapel would be good to get his back against the cage, even if he stays in the mounted position. To get his back higher onto that cage, it's going to help him in not getting hit with bigger shots and in it possibly getting out.
Easier said than done, John.
Yes, it is.
What he does need to do is get his head off of the cage, though. He needs to turn his body, use
One way or
his
the
feet, just try to bridge him over.
Trap and go. Yes, good.
This is what he did right there. And work for it.
Hands
Nicely
inside,
done.
hands inside. Good. Hips forward, good pressure.
Salter
Hey, watch the triangle
has
here.
earned 7 of his last 9 wins by first round finish.
Posture.
Nice attack. He controlled the wrist, pushed the arm through on the triangle, and now here he's trying to attack.
Kapel's going to be out, yeah.
Out, step over.
It was a good attempt, but you saw right away when you saw Kapel step back and he got his head past that point, it was a matter of just, it's not going to be able to work based upon the defense that Kapel put up.
30 seconds. Frame on the neck. Frame on the neck.
Real short
Cross
time.
face here. Get your guard back. Get your guard back. Keep screwing your hips to the left. Hand fight that left hand with your left hand. Good. Good. Hand fight now. Go. Yes. Keep screwing it out. You see it there.
One of the benefits
Make
of
him respect it. Good.
the world in
Arm
which we
towards
live
you.
in right
Hold
now,
elbow to you.
including
Hold elbow to you.
the sports world, is you
Short
can
time.
hear the corner
Hey, take a
loud
deep breath.
and clear.
There's nothing here. He's just holding you down. Good. Good. Yes. Good elbow. Go. Again. Elbow. Elbow.
Cannot wait
second
for our
round,
main
Bill, let's
event.
go.
We will check in with Jay Glazer, JLP Son, and Jen Brown in just a moment. Round number 2. Salter in the red, Andrew Kapel in the blue.
Touch it. Zone 3, stay here. Good. Yep. Yep.
Good start to round number 1 for John Salter.
Nice left hand. You see Andrew Kapel just hit it and say, yeah, hit me, come on. But clean shot by John Salter. One of the things that John Salter talked about, Josh, was in his last fight against Costello Van Steenis is all that grappling and all those attempts at those submissions that Van Steenis was able to work his way out of just drained him. It made his arms heavy and he had a hard time in the 3rd round. He says, I learned from it, my training changed, so I'm grappling on the ground, getting up and hitting mitts, going back to the ground, getting back up and hitting mitts. He's trained he's changed that training to make it to where when he is in these positions and he gets back to his feet, he's not dead.
There's not a whole lot you can do, though, John. No matter how much you train, that fatigue's going to set in regardless, especially with the amount of grappling that he was doing. Van Steenis pushing the pace, just trying to keep in his grill the whole fight. There's a reason why he got tired, because Van Steenis was just in his grill and he had no choice but to try and wrestle and grapple the whole time.
He said basically that he would always get redlined, John, nothing left in his arms, and he went on to say that cost him the Rafael Lovato fight. The fact that he had nothing left in his arms because of all the attempts to try to finish the fight.
He's got a good arm triangle that he had set up very well. Nice job by Kapel to bump his way out of it.
Yes, good. Clear the feet. Get your right
And for a guy so successful with his submissions, he's got to remember sometimes you can't really go after something that's not there. You can't sell out if you can't finish it, which maybe John had done in the past.
He's going back to the arm triangle. If he gets himself off to this right side,
Good. Now we got a bridge towards our left. Get that left elbow.
he's going to want to take his body going to his right.
Let's work. Good. Beautiful.
Here's the thing with that, Goldie, though, is that there's a lot of times that you've done with lesser competition that you can get away with holding those submissions and go ahead and stay on top. You can't afford to do those type of things with Lovato Jr. and Van Steenis, this upper echelon of fighters. You can't afford to do that with. He found out, and that's why he went back to the drawing board and fixed those things.
And that's a great point, Josh, because he also used to kind of train on his own. He was a solo flyer, and he had so much success that he didn't surround himself with coaches and more guidance until the Lovato fight. Had to sit back there and said, all right, I got to get some real training camp going.
Keep moving. Little motion.
You have got to be working with people who can push you in the gym. Doesn't mean they're beating you up, but they are pushing you every day, making you better, because if you're not going forward, you're definitely going
Right
backward.
leg flat and step your left foot over. He's just holding you here, Andrew. Good. We got to work.
I like what he's doing here. He's just controlling the position. Make Kapel use a lot of energy trying to get out.
Well, right now, there's a lot of shoulder pressure on Kapel.
You're good here. There's no choke. You're good. You're fine.
Corner saying there's no choke, but there's definitely a choke that is there if he goes after it. It's just a matter of what he's feeling.
Get your left elbow back. Left elbow back. Right hand across the lap. Right hand
This
across
is
the lap.
definitely a lot of pressure. That choke is gonna, he's gonna feel it, but you want to see Salter come to his right, go cross, getting across the body so he can put more pressure on that choke.
Talked about the environment and no crowd. We asked Andrew Kapel earlier this week about it. He said, the bulk of my career I fought with no audience. It's something I'm familiar with. And a lot of times I was facing the hometown person. So I welcome the silence.
We've all been there.
Yep, he just doesn't want to be silenced by John Salter.
Get your left elbow back across his face, Andrew. Bridge with your right forearm.
This is just a great demonstration of being able to control someone with body position. You see Salter keeping his head down the ground. He can't really be hit. He's just doing work to the body. He's putting pressure with that shoulder. Look at the shoulder pressure on Kapel. He's giving him a hard time with breathing. He's having to carry his weight. This is just exhausting if you're Andrew Kapel.
John, let's talk about, though, that Rafael Lovato Jr. now has vacated the title. And you've got these guys that have been waiting around for a title shot, because you have Gegard Mousasi, who's potentially going to fight Douglas Lima. Maybe that should be a #1 contender spot or a title shot. Where does John Salter fit in all this in your eyes?
Well,
We'll talk about that when we come back on Paramount Network. Welcome back to the Mohegan Sun Arena. Light heavyweight title on the line later tonight. And the Dragon weighing in. I think I deserve the next title shot. We will find out. His next fight will be against the former champion, Phil Davis, a rematch. Two men with 47 combined wins. That will be Bellator 245's main event on September 11th. More on that as the night continues. Josh Salter up 2-love.
Yeah, I think he's up convincingly 2-love. John, would you score that second round, though, a 10-8?
You know, definitely domination, and he's going at times looking like he's going to go for submission, but then really doesn't, because he doesn't do the things and I can't tell what he's feeling. But there's times when you're saying you've got that arm triangle choke, you need to come off the body from mount, get into a cross position, and he doesn't do it. So it's like, is he actually trying to finish the fight? Because I'm not going to give you a 10-8 if you're not doing things to try to finish the fight.
Realistically, what I feel like he's trying to do in that situation, when you start to put the pressure like you're going to get the side choke, you hope your opponent makes a mistake. They try to turn with it, or they try to turn away from it, open it up even more, get to the back, or even just finish the side choke. They make it easier for you to get to the dominant position.
Bellator Nation, we want to know your thoughts on tonight's main event of the evening. Hit our Twitter poll and tell us who you believe will win our title fight. 74% believe that Ryan Bader will defend his light heavyweight belt for the second time later tonight in our main event against Vadim Nemkov. Keep those votes coming. Let's go back to what Josh was talking about. John Salter, we talked to him about it, John. Are you still in the mix? Are you right there near the top for a title shot? And he basically was like, well, my loss to Lovato Jr. was my mulligan, if you will. I can't afford another one if I want to be up there, but if I keep winning, they can't keep a title shot away from me.
Yeah, the biggest problem I see with Salter right now is exactly what we're seeing here. He's dominating the position of the fight. He did a lot of that with Van Steenis, but in his fight with Van Steenis, it got to the third round. It was Van Steenis was the guy coming on in the fight. He was the one doing damage, and John was accepting a lot of damage. Kapel's not getting the damage here tonight, but when you're looking at putting someone in a title fight, you're looking for a guy that's a finisher. You're looking for a guy that's putting people away. That's why Douglas Lima got that title shot against Gegard Mousasi. That's a vacant title because of Lovato Jr. But you want guys that are always going for that finish, and right now you're seeing with John Salter, again, right back to this position, I want to see a guy that is going for the finish.
I'm going to throw a wrench in this whole conversation of title, though. We've got a guy over in the UK named Fabian Edwards.
Yep.
Absolutely phenomenal, undefeated, the brother of Leon Edwards. The pedigree runs in his family. He's a hard worker, explosive, does everything right.
gotta go again,
stylistically,
Andrew.
I think he matches up really well with everyone.
Gotta
So you
go
got
again.
Fabian, and you've also got Van Steen, is very young, very talented, gave Salter a run for his money. I think also, too, that's a learning experience for him. That title contention there is
Good time.
Hit is all over. He got it. He got the finish, John, right when you were talking about it. And so now it is 17 of 18 professional wins. With the finish, his 10th win by submission. John Salter might have been listening to you, Big John McCarthy. Started with a takedown.
This is what you want to see from John Salter. Gets this takedown, drops level, nice job of driving through him, and then from that point, and this was a little moment when he got the mount, you saw Kapel trying to set him up for that bump. Couldn't do it. Now he gets that arm triangle from a mounted position, but it's been so much time that Andrew Kapel has been underneath him. He's exhausted. Now he can't breathe. It's not only blood, it's just a choke of air. Great win for John Salter.
8th win inside the Bellator cage for John Salter. The official decision coming up next. Another submission victory for John Salter. A finish here in round number 3 to make it official. Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, inside the Bellator cage, it comes to an end. 3 minutes, 11 seconds, round number 3. The tap by way of an arm triangle. The winner by submission, John Salter.
The arm triangle, the finish for John Salter. His 18th professional win, his 17th professional finish. Nicely done, John Salter.